recap. What did we cover last time? We covered quite a few things, actually. We began with the qibla, so turning towards and turning away from others, from other objects, both internal and external. We discussed the adhan as an invitation to enter that presence, and we went through the different a few different insights about it. And then we focused on the niyyah, which is a very important moment in this process. And we said that the niyyah was for qurba, and that niyyah for qurba needs to be with pure ikhlas. It's only qurba and nothing else. And what we'll go on to now is actually a kind of a test of that. It's an actual step in the process, and it's essentially like a test of that ikhlas and niyyah. And on the subject of ikhlas, maybe we have a separate discussion about that. It's a huge topic. It's really critical. And to me, it's really the only thing you need to work on. It's the secret of all success, and it's actually the only thing that you need to pay attention to and improve. And after that, everything else will flow. And in fact, even the meditations that we have discussed, you know, the breath and the body attention, that's actually training in ikhlas in a maybe a way that is not obvious, but to have that kind of ikhlas of hudur through the whole salah without interruption, with focus, requires ikhlas, right? It requires that kind of dedication and pure ikhlas from an internal level to maintain that focus. And so to reach that level, we are breaking it down into steps, step by step, moment by moment, breath by breath. You are developing ikhlas. Okay, so that's one way to connect these two together. It is a practice of developing ikhlas. So now we reach a sensitive point in this step, because there's a test of this ikhlas that comes. To me, this is a very powerful technique that we'll talk about, and you can really work with this on a day-to-day basis to improve it. So I'll cover a particular hadith that helps us to do this, and it has two parts to it. You'll see it on a couple of slides that we'll cover. So we'll do the first part, and then we'll talk about the second part, and then we can move forward from there. Okay, so it starts with hopefully as everyone can see the slides now. We start here. Okay, so I call it standing at the door, the test, standing at the door. Okay, and here it refers to a masjid, but really we're talking about the masjid within, the internal masjid. This is where you're standing now. So he says, إذا بلغت باب المسجد فاعلم أنك قد قصدت باب ملك عظيم لا يطأ بساطه إلا المطهرون ولا يؤذن لمجالسته إلا الصديقون فهب القدوم إلى بساط خدمة الملك. Okay. Then واعترف بعجزك وتقصيرك وانكسارك وفقرك بين يديه. That's the second thing. And then وأعرض أسرارك عليه وكن كأفقر عباده بين يديه. And then finally, واخلُ قلبك عن كل شاغل يحجبك عن ربك فإنه لا يقبل إلا الأطهر والأخلص. Okay, so right at the end, you see that connection to what we were saying. Al-Athar wal-Akhlas, the most pure and the most sincere. So we talked about that inner tahara and that ikhlas niyyah. This is exactly where it gets connected, because these are conditions, they are requirements, they are prerequisite for you to be able to enter his presence. Okay? He demands that level of purity and sincerity for you to qualify to enter. So in terms of the practice, we started with a focus on our own presence. That was the first level. And get established in your own presence. We then shifted the attention, in a way you can say, more outward, still within, still internal, but realizing that your presence is within his presence. Yes, his presence is infinite. So you are within that infiniteness. And so the shift of attention becomes, you can say, panoramic. So you relax it in a way. You're still maintaining focus, but it's a more relaxed approach and making that attention more panoramic. And that's how you open up to his presence. Now, here, what he's saying is you start an internal conversation with him. Okay? It's a silent internal conversation. And you are admitting to and acknowledging your imperfections. Okay? So he is perfect. He is complete. He is infinite. You are not. This is a relationship between a lover and a beloved. عاشق ومعشوق. But عاشق and معشوق are not equals. In any love relationship, the lover has nothing. He's hopeless. He's powerless. He's in need of that معشوق, that lover. And the problem with the عاشق is he is imperfect. He's incomplete. He has a lot of shortcomings. So the essence of the problem is that you are imperfect, but you want to enter the presence of the perfect. And so that requires a certain attitude and state of heart to be humbled. That's what we're doing here. اعترف بعجزك وتقصيرك وانكسارك وفقرك بين يديه وأعرض أسرارك عليه. So this is how we start that internal conversation, recognizing, admitting to those shortcomings. Okay, so that's the first part of this, and this kind of feeling of humbleness and brokenness is because of that recognition that you are the one in need to be in his presence. That's the only fear you have. The only fear here is that the qurba is not given to you. There's no other fear, because the need was only for qurba. The only thing to fear is the lack of qurba and not being accepted in that way. So this is the first thing we do. And then the second part, what happens next? فانظر من أي ديوان يخرج اسمك. Okay, so this is the test. فإن ذقت حلاوة مناجاته ولذيذ مخاطباته وشربت بكأس رحمته وكراماته من حسن إقباله عليك وإجابته. If that happens, فقد صلحت لخدمته. فادخل فلك الإذن والأمان. Okay, so this is one possibility. See if that's the response that comes. Or otherwise, وإلا فقف, stop, فقف, وقوف من انقطعت عنه الحيال وقصر عنه الأمال وقضي عليه الأجال. Okay, so you do that. Then فإن علم الله من قلبك صدق الالتجاء إليه نظر إليك بعين الرأفة والرحمة واللطف ووفقك لما يحب ويرضى فإنه كريم يحب الكرامة لعباده المضطرين إليه المحترقين على بابه.
يا الله.
So here there's two possibilities that he's putting in front of you. And this is literally an internal spiritual practice. You see what kind of response comes. If you feel that sweetness, we all know what that feels like. When you have that connection, you feel the presence. It's a beautiful salah. You feel connected. You feel like he's there with you. He's hearing you. You are speaking to him. If you feel that sweetness, that's telling you that the response has been a positive one. Okay? But if you don't feel it, and a lot of times we don't, what he's saying is don't just continue. Don't just unconsciously brute force just moving forward and doing it. You pause there and you acknowledge that the response has not come in that way. And it's because you haven't qualified for that. And now if you are genuine and sincere and you have that ikhlas for that qurbah, then only one thing should happen, and that is that your heart should break. It should break. Because that's all you want, and you can't live without it. That should be the way that you approach it. And if that's the case, the beautiful thing is that there is another, in a way, another door that he will let you in. He will not leave you out. He will never leave you out. If that ikhlas is there, if you're at a higher level of ikhlas on that day, every day is different, every salah is different. But if on that moment your ikhlas is pure, your focus is there, then you come through the front door as a special guest, you can say. But if not, you haven't qualified there. If that's the case, at least see that your heart breaks. المضطرين إليه محترقين على بابه. That's feeling, then that door will open. But you can say in a way, a side door is opening. You can come too. You may not enter the innermost chamber of his presence, but you can come in. The door will still open. So one thing that I want to build on as part of this is a couple of beautiful, very short sentences that come through Hadith Qudsi. You see them here on the screen, which I found personally very beautiful and moving. He says very simply, أنا جليس من ذكرني. How beautiful. Jalis, you know, this is not just I'm with you, I'm ma'akum. It's not even just ma'akum. He says, أنا جليس معكم. He's sitting with you, so to speak. جليس من ذكرني. And then he also says, أنا عند المنكسرة قلوبهم. Okay, and that's the way to connect it with that hadith we just read. المنكسرة قلوبهم. The ones who are heartbroken because all they want is to be with him in his presence. So if that's the case, then the door opens as well. It's another doorway. Okay, it's another doorway. So in terms of the practice, I've summarized it here. You begin by opening up conversation. You confess your shortcomings, your limitations, wanting to enter that presence, but knowing that you are incomplete. You state your intentions, and then you empty your mind, you remain silent, and you see what kind of response comes. This is an actual internal, I'm saying. See what kind of a response you see. If you taste the sweetness, then you have received the permission. And at that moment, the feeling to have is khushu' with shukr, okay? Khashi' wa shakir, because despite those limitations and shortcomings, he has accepted you and allowed you to come. So there's a gratefulness for that. Otherwise, you stop there. You don't walk in, and you don't just walk away either. You stand there, humbly broken heart. Here it's khashi' wa munkasir. It's a different flavor, okay? It's a different flavor. This is all something you have to experience directly for yourself inside and see which flavor of salah comes this time. Okay, and in this case, it's khashi' wa munkasir. You're entering because he has pity on you. He has compassion towards you, that you have this broken heart. This is a gateway to reach a type of khushu' which is really focused on this qurbah that you are desiring more than anything else. Okay, so this, I call it standing at the door, and it's a real test of ikhlas, because that's what's going to determine what kind of outcome. And it's really interesting. You see it for yourself as you do it on a day-to-day basis. You see how the relationship evolves internally and how the flavor of the salah changes depending on your state of mind. And you learn to navigate. It's like an internal landscape. You're learning to navigate it, becoming familiar with the ground. And what I've found really interesting is that it's not in your control, the way that it opens out. All you can do is focus on that ikhlas, do these practices that we've been talking about, and then just see where you stand at that moment in time and what kind of a reaction you get. Okay, so that's another step in our preparation process. The next is the takbir. Now, takbir is another very crucial moment in the salah, and needs to be another one of those conscious moments, very awake, no autopilot, like we talked about last time. This is another one. There's the basic takbirat al-ihram that we all do. That's the formal requirement to enter salah. But before that, actually, there is a set of takbirat, okay, it's called the takbirat al-iftitahiyya, which is not required, but it's a beautiful practice. It's extremely deep. In fact, I'm going to share it with you. I won't say that it's something that is a must do. It's, you know, it needs a commitment. Maybe you don't do it every day. You do it from time to time. See how you like to do that yourself. And it is very irfani, very mystical, very deep. I cannot claim to have experienced it and know what they're even talking about, but it will be inspiring for us to at least look into it and to be aware of the levels of depth that is available and possible, even if we are not able to reach it from the beginning. Okay, so moving to the next slide, we have the takbir. Now, what is takbir signifying or symbolizing? Okay, there's a tension in everything that we do on the spiritual path There's a tension between expressing, okay, expressing and describing and saying things, and remaining silent. There's a tension between these two things, either to express or to remain silent. And the reason is because, we have come to know Allah through what He's told us Himself, and He's used many different sifat, attributes to describe Himself. But we know also that ultimately, in the real sense, in the ultimate reality, the absolute, the infinite, Allah can never be described, can never really truly be known. Right? We know that as well. And that's what Allahu Akbar actually signifies. It's Allahu Akbar min an yusaf. Okay? It's not that He's the greatest, He's not bigger, He's not more than. No, that's not what Akbar means. Akbar min an yusaf. And so that's what we are saying here. And through the salah, you see it repeated more than anything else, actually, right? Think about it. Every step in the salah, we say Allahu Akbar. Every step. It's repeated more than anything else, because the ultimate truth is that He cannot be known. And anything that we say is incomplete. Okay, so that's what Allahu Akbar signifies. And Imam Ali in his first khutbah tells us very clearly, كمال توحيده الإخلاص له. There's that ikhlas again. وكمال الإخلاص له نفي الصفات عنه. Okay, نفي الصفات. So you actually deny the attributes. It's a very radical thing to say, actually. He has sifat, but we're saying nafi sifat, denying those attributes. The highest level, there's no room for even attributes. Even sifat, there's no room for them at the highest level of Dhat Allah. So takbir here is focused on Dhat Allah. Okay, so that's a very important point, and we will repeat it through the salah. Every step you'll see from next session, when we enter the salah itself, every step that we go through, you'll see that we acknowledge what we have said, what we have expressed, but then we deny it by doing takbir again. Okay, because at the highest level, we must be free from all of those sifat and all of those descriptions. Okay, so that's takbir. And then comes the actual symbolism of the takbir. When we do the takbir, we're lifting the hands. So beautiful. The levels of symbolism in here is phenomenal, because this lifting of the hand, okay, symbolizes lifting of a veil, of a hijab, raf' al-hijab. That's what we're doing when you're doing the takbirah. It's raf' al-hijab that we're doing. But it's very precise, because in everything we do from here forwards, there is a recognition that we are powerless. We have no ability to lift anything. Not hijab, nothing. So the reason why we do it this way, we don't lift it this way. This is not how we do takbirat al-ihram. We do it this way, is because it symbolizes that it's not you that's doing the lifting. It's Him doing the lifting. You are only symbolically representing that. Okay. So that's why it's with this way, that palms down and lifting the hijab that way. So you are doing it through His power, through His action. And then when you reach the top of that takbir, what's left is symbolizing exactly what I just said. You are empty-handed. You are powerless. Nothing you say, nothing you do has any value of itself. And that's what the acknowledgement is. So that's why It's very encouraged. Every step of the salah, you're doing takbirah and you do it properly. You don't just say it. You do it with the lifting of the hands, because every time it's an acknowledgement of that powerlessness and ultimately this emptiness of you. There's nothing to do with you. In fact, one thing to say about the step we did before, I should have mentioned this before when we did the previous part, this part, standing at the door. This part when he said, أعرض اعترف بعجزك أعرض أسرارك, all of that. This is the only part of the salah where you will talk about yourself. This is the only part you are given permission to talk about yourself and to be thinking about yourself, yeah, and your shortcomings. No longer. And this is the only other part of salah, is that it is symbolically represented by the lifting of the hands, that you are the one that is powerless and empty. And then from then on, every single step in the salah we take is towards him, focus on him, and nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. In fact, in these the books about salah, Ibn Arabi, for example, emphasize this is a lot. Do not talk about yourself anymore. No more focusing on I'm so bad, I'm so incomplete, please accept me, please accept me. That part is done. That part is done when you were standing at the door. From here on, you have entered. You are in the presence. Here, it is inappropriate for you to talk about yourself or to be even thinking about yourself. You should not have any self-awareness in that step. If you are sitting with the beloved, you're with the ma'shuq, it is inappropriate for the ashiq to be talking about himself or focused on his imperfections. That part is done. The focus should be 100% on the ma'shuq. Okay? So this is the takbirah. Now, I'll go through the takbirat al-iftitahiyya. And as I said, let's just take them as they are and enjoy the beauty of it. I don't have much to say about it because, as I said, it's very Arfanian. These hujub that we are removing, the 7 types of hijab that are being lifted, it's a very subtle spiritual thing. I have nothing much to add on that. Now, there's a lot of words here. I've laid it out on the slide, and I'll read it and we'll go through it. Apologies, there's a lot of words here, but as I said, I just want to be at least aware of this depth. So it says, منزل الطبيعة وارفع حجابها الغليظ بالتمسك بمقام الكبرياء وارمه وراء ظهرك وكبر وأدخل الحجاب الآخر وارفعه إلى الوراء وكبر وارفع الحجاب الثالث فقد وصلت إلى منزل باب القلب. Okay, so now we've reached باب القلب. So these are the first 3 takbirats. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Each time you are lifting one of the hijabs, and now you have reached Manzil Bab al-Qalb, the door of the heart. And there's a dua to say. And between each of these takbirat, and they are grouped together, as I said, it's very mysterious how it works. But first 3 takbirat, then there's a dua here. Allahumma anta al-malik al-haqq al-mubin. La ilaha illa ant. Subhanaka wa bihamdik. عملت سوءا وظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي إنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. Okay, so that is the first. Then ثم ارفع الحجاب الرابع والخامس وارمه إلى الخلف وكرر التكبير. So here again 2 takbirats. وافتح عين القلب حتى تسمع نداء تقدم. Come. So this is what happens after the fifth takbirah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And he should hear the response, تقدم. And here you say, لبيك وسعديك والخير بين يديك والشر ليس إليك المهدي من هديت عبدك وابن عبديك بين يديك منك وبك ولك وإليك لا ملجأ ولا منجا ولا مفر منك إلا إليك سبحانك وحنانيك تباركت وتعاليت سبحانك رب البيت. Then the sixth one, ثم ارفع الحجاب السادس وكبر. الله أكبر. يا محسن قد أتاك المسيء أنت المحسن ونحن المسيئون فتجاوز يا رب عن قبيح ما عندنا بجميل ما عندك. And now we come to the actual تكبيرة الإحرام. Okay. ثم ارفع الحجاب السابع وقل تكبيرة الإحرام. So you lift it and say Allahu Akbar, and now we've entered. وجهت وجهي للذي فطر السماوات والأرض حنيفا على ملة إبراهيم ودين محمد وما أنا من المشركين إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا من المسلمين. So that's the seventh, and that's the actual takbirat al-ihram. And so you start the salah on this footing, having removed veil after veil, hijab after hijab, and hearing the response in turn, and getting ready to enter the closest proximity to him as we go towards the sajda, which is the closest point you reach. Step by step, we are moving forwards and getting closer to that presence. Okay, that's what I wanted to focus on today. Inshallah, that was useful. And as I said, the last part, I don't have much value to add. I just find it deeply inspiring to be aware of these levels that are there, that we should really be aspiring to, trying to experience these very subtle spiritual dimensions that are there. They are real. They are available to us. They just need the time and the effort to work on them and be inshallah rewarded by that, by getting accepted and feeling that presence directly in our own awareness. Thank you.